Hello everyone, and welcome to a brand new Fallout 76 build, the Enforcer. This build absolutely dominates, and I've had a ton of fun using it, to the point where I'm still using it after I finish capturing all of the footage I need, as I don't want to move on to anything else just yet. That said, hopefully I'll have actually worked on a new build before next week. As minimum special for this build, we have 5 strength, 4 perception, 4 endurance, 2 charisma, 2 intelligence, 5 agility, and 3 luck. If you are planning on playing in a team, I would recommend you raise minimum charisma to 3 in order to be able to share a 1-point perk card with your team. The essential perks for this build in strength are Shotgunner at all levels, and Scattershot. Our primary weapon is a shotgun, so the Shotgunner perks are critical in boosting our damage. Keep in mind that the first rank of each of these perks is the most valuable. In the footage you're watching, I've only got the first rank of each, and I'm still able to pack a real punch. Additional ranks do mean additional damage though, so don't worry if you invest more into the card. The Scattershot perk reduces the weight of your shotgun and makes it reload faster. Shotguns need reloading all the time, so the quicker you can do that, the better. As essential perks for perception, I have included Concentrated Fire and Skeet Shooter. For Concentrated Fire, I only went with 1 rank so that I could target limbs. On PC, it's incredibly easy to target an enemy in VATS and switch to targeting the head for some extra damage. You can also target limbs if you're looking to cripple your foe. Skeet Shooter tightens the spread of a shotgun and boosts the accuracy. This means that, providing you've got your weapon pointed in the right place, you're getting more pellets hitting your enemy. I took this up to the 2nd rank, as I found it gave me a little more range to work with. As there was less spread, it meant I could more consistently hit targets at more than just point blank range. The extra range you'll actually get from this isn't much, but it can make a real difference when the extra range keeps you just out of melee range of a Deathclaw. On to Charisma now, where I have the Lone Wanderer perk. Now obviously, if you're playing as part of a team, this isn't going to help you out. If you're playing solo though, then I consider it essential. Take less damage and gain significant AP regen. What's not to like? If you are regularly playing as part of a team, I'd recommend switching to bodyguards instead, to still get a bit of extra defense. Finally, in Essential, we move to Agility, where we have the Enforcer perk, namesake of this build. This perk is just freaking great. Max it out and you get a 15% chance to stagger and a 30% chance to cripple a limb. This is the perk that changes shotguns from a fun close quarters weapon to something utterly devastating. The stagger effect will help to stop enemies fighting back, and plenty of enemies in the game become virtually useless when they have their legs crippled. Scorched, ghouls, and even Deathclaws are easy to take down once their legs are crippled, and with this perk, it takes no time at all to deal with them. On to the additional perks now, and we start with Perception. Here we have the Fire in the Hole perk, which gives throwables additional range and grants you a visual throwing arc. Our gun doesn't have much range, so, to compensate for that, we need to ensure we can be accurate with throwing grenades over long distances. This perk helps you to deal with that pesky super mutant camping on a roof, or a group of mole miners huddling in a building. Next up is Endurance, where I went with the Adamantium Skeleton perk. This reduces the chance of your limbs getting crippled, and I found even just the first rank can be really helpful. This isn't a particularly fancy perk, but like most Endurance perks, it just gives you a little survivability boost. Onto Intelligence now, where I've included Weapon Artisan and First Aid. Weapon Artisan allows you to repair weapons above 100% condition, something that's really helpful for a build with 1 gun. First Aid increases the effectiveness of stim packs, both making them better to use and reducing the number you need to carry at all times. Agility is our tied highest stat for a reason. Marathoner and White Knight are a couple of great perks, but work well with almost any build, but especially well here. Marathoner reduces AP cost for sprinting. This not only allows you to travel the world more efficiently, but works wonders for a build that needs to rapidly close distance on enemies. You want to reach your opponent as fast as you possibly can, otherwise you're just giving them more time to shoot you up. White Knight reduces the rate at which armour becomes damaged. This means less time repairing all your gear and more time with your maximum armour rating. Finally, we move on to Luck, where I once again have Bloody Mess and Starched Jeans. These 2 perks are just great. Bloody Mess gives a flat damage boost, and Stark Genes helps you to keep the mutations you want and not gain any you don't. The main weapon for this build is Civil Unrest, a unique pump-action shotgun you gain from completing the Falsely Accused quest. In order to get this quest to trigger, you first need to have completed Bureau of Tourism. At some point after completing that, whilst travelling around the Toxic Valley, you will get attacked by prison marshals, which begins the quest. This particular shotgun isn't actually all that great, the legendary effect only giving plus 10 action points. Sure, it's a nice bonus, but nothing game-changing. If you happen to get a better legendary pump-action shotgun drop, go for that instead, but at least there's a guaranteed one out there. The pump-action shotgun hits a nice middle ground for shotguns, giving better ammo capacity than the double barrel and better damage than the combat shotgun. Both of the other choices are a little more specialised, but the pump is the one I always turn to. The big downside of having a shotgun as your main weapon is that you lack range, so make sure you've got plenty of throwables with you. Grenades, molotovs, and even some more advanced explosives can prove invaluable in a tricky situation where you can't get close enough to your enemy. As armour for this build, you'll want to be wearing the Drifter outfit, along with the black cowboy hat, green bandana, and patrolman sunglasses. Feel free to take a bit of creative liberty with this, if there's another look you prefer, but you get the general gist of what I'm going for. The ensemble provides a nice kind of roguish look to the character. These pieces are all aesthetic, so you can simply go with whatever armour you run across in the game to wear underneath. Make sure you've also got a good piece of under armour. I'm starting to look into the under armour, such as the vault suit and road levers, to see the different effects on them all, as they seemingly can all be raised in order to boost various stats. That's something for another video though. As mutations for this build, I've got 3 that will work particularly well. Speed Demon, Marsupial, and Grounded. Grounded reduces how much energy damage you take, whilst also reducing the amount of energy damage you deal. Your main weapon deals ballistic damage, so this is a pretty decent trade-off. Speed Demon and Marsupial are all about battlefield mobility. Speed Demon makes you run faster, and Marsupial makes you jump higher, both helping you to reach enemies quicker. At first glance, a shotgun build seems very straightforward. Charge at your enemy, get close enough to smell their breath, stick the barrel of your gun in their mouth, and blow their brains out. Easy! Problem is, most enemies won't just let you do that. They instead have this nasty habit of fighting back. Sure, you want to get close to your enemy, but if that means running through a metric ton of crossfire, then things aren't going to work out for you. Assess the situation you're facing. If you are outnumbered, make sure you're darting back and forth between cover, reducing the number of enemies who have a shot at you. If you can split up enemies, do so and take them out one at a time. Conversely, if your opponents group up, make sure you use one of your throwables to hurt them all at once. Personally, I spend a lot of time getting the enemy to come to me. I'll hide behind some cover, get their attention, and then blow their brains out once they're standing in front of me. There's a whole bunch of different strategies you can use whilst wielding a shotgun to be more effective, so don't just charge wildly into every fight. Use your brain and you'll come out on top no matter the odds. Now, I know someone is going to be in the comments typing, "But Sarge, what about Scorch Beasts?" The simple answer to that would be wait for them to land. Whilst they're up in the sky, your shotgun isn't going to do much to them. Focus first on the Scorch that will be charging you, and then hope the big beastie lands somewhere nearby. If you have the Marsupial perk, you can jump shot them quite effectively, which is also really fun. And you can potentially get them with molotovs if they hover, but you'll deal the majority of your damage once they decide to stop flapping about. The Enforcer was raised with a great deal of discipline. If he was given an order by his parents, he was expected to carry it out. There was no deliberation about this. It was never, "you should do this," or "can you?" It was always just a straight up demand. This may have been viewed as impolite by most people, but the Enforcer was raised like this, so just took it as how life was. His discipline made him a good student, however it also made him somewhat narrow-minded and stubborn. He was often unwilling to accept any new ideas which were presented to him, if they conflicted with what he already knew. His grades reflected this, as they were never anything too outstanding. If the problems he was presented with were straightforward, then he would resolve them every time. But other than that, he wasn't exactly gifted. After school, his parents guided him to joining the police force. It was a good fit for him. His strictness to the rules and black and white way of looking at things seemed to make him ideal to be out on the beat. He trained hard in order to make his way through the academy, and did far better than he had ever done at school. As a policeman, he was viewed very differently by various members of the force. His superiors saw him as a shining example due to his high number of arrests. However, a lot of his colleagues viewed him as somewhat fanatical. They all had to chase down criminals from time to time, it was part of the job. Yet he seemed to take great pleasure in the act, violently tackling crooks to the ground every chance that he got. Technically, he never did anything that was outside of the rules, so there was never anything to complain about, but that didn't stop his co-workers from feeling uneasy about him. Clearly, he had something dark and violent brewing within him. On one night, this dark nature had a chance to shine. His whole unit had been called to a house that was apparently filled with gang members. He was on point, shotgun in hand as they burst through the door. He announced the team as police and told everyone to put their hand on their heads and stay still. The first room they entered into had 3 men sitting at a table, each with their hands placed on their heads. On the table next to them was a large pile of drugs and guns. He pointed his shotgun at the trio as the rest of his team fanned out to check the other rooms in the house. A few seconds passed, and then a shot rang out. The noise caused one of the men sat at the table to remove his hands from his head, dropping them down towards the table as his whole body curled inwards. The enforcer saw the man's hand moving close to the firearm on the table, and didn't hesitate, squeezing the trigger on his shotgun and blasting a fist-sized hole in the man's head. The other two had a look of horror pass over their faces, before their fight-or-flight response kicked in. Feeling like their lives were on the line, they reached for their weapons. The enforcer rapidly took them down as well, only one of the pair even having time to make contact with their weapon before their life was ended. The enforcer then moved through the house, towards where the original shot had come from. He entered the new room, weapon ready to fire, but he saw a situation entirely under control. A couple of men had been cuffed and the other officers were calmly preparing to escort them out the building. Seeing the confused look on his face, the sergeant of the squad explained that there had been a misfire with one of the cops' weapons, but nobody had got hurt. The prisoners were then escorted back through the original room, giving both sides plenty of time to see what the enforcer had done. The sergeant questioned him back at the station, but the enforcer showed no remorse. He knew he had done what was necessary to ensure the law was carried out. He didn't receive any real disciplinary actions. After all, it was his word against that of 3 dead men. Even though he wasn't deemed as technically having done anything wrong, he felt his team distance themselves from him. Small talk vanished entirely, and he found he was being radioed in to deal with far less issues. Just as he began considering requesting a transfer, he was called into the captain's office. There he was informed that a position in a SWAT team had opened up, and somebody higher up had requested him to fill the gap. He accepted the offer without hesitation, knowing that it was his duty to do so. On the SWAT team, things ran a lot smoother for him. In the situations they were called in for, it was often a matter of life or death, and the rest of the team seemed happy to have someone who was willing to get their hands dirty to get the job done. He felt his career was going well, but then came that fateful day. He was one of the lucky few that received a place within Vault 76. Within the Vault, he took it upon himself to enforce the rules that were laid in place by both Vault Tech and the Overseer. If anyone got out of line, he wouldn't hesitate to put them back in their place. Once Reclamation Day begins and he walks back to the surface, he sees a world deeply in need of some law and order. Thank you all for watching this character build. If you enjoyed it, make sure to hit the like button, subscribe for more like this, and if you want to help get these videos made, consider becoming a supporter of mine on Patreon. Without the support of my generous patrons, I wouldn't be able to dedicate anywhere near as much time to working on these builds as I currently do. As always, thank you all very much for watching. Sarge out.